There are moments in life when everything appears to be moving in the right direction, only for one unexpected change to alter the entire path without warning. A single decision. A single name. A single moment that leaves behind questions no one seems willing to answer. Right now, someone connected to your journey is carrying the weight of one such decision, and they know that what happened can no longer remain hidden. If this message has found you today, do not rush past it, because the story unfolding before you may reveal why certain doors suddenly closed when they seemed ready to open. For days, perhaps even longer, your person has been wrestling with something they never imagined they would have to face. They watched events unfold from a distance, hoping that somehow everything would correct itself before anyone noticed. But as time continued moving forward, the reality became impossible to ignore. A decision was made behind the scenes, and your name, the very name they expected to remain, was quietly removed at the final moment. They have replayed that instant over and over in their mind, wondering if there was anything they could have done differently, anything they could have said, or any warning they should have given before everything changed. At first, they tried convincing themselves it was only temporary. They believed there had been some misunderstanding, some small mistake that would quickly be corrected. Every passing day strengthened that hope, yet every passing day also brought another silence. No explanation arrived. No clear answer appeared. Instead, uncertainty settled over everything like a thick morning fog, making it harder to understand why something that once seemed certain had suddenly disappeared without a trace. The strange part is not simply what happened. The strange part is how quietly it happened. There were no loud arguments. No dramatic confrontations. Just a subtle shift that only became visible after it had already taken place. Looking back now, your person can see little signs they ignored. Conversations that suddenly changed direction. Promises that became less certain. Unexpected delays that seemed harmless at the time but now carry an entirely different meaning. The answers were never completely hidden. They were simply scattered in places no one thought to look. As these memories return, your person finds themselves questioning everything. They wonder whether the removal of your name was truly the end of something, or the beginning of something far greater that neither of you could yet understand. Sometimes life removes us from one path, not because we failed, but because another road is quietly being prepared beyond our current vision. That possibility has become the only thought giving them enough strength to continue searching for answers. Still, their heart carries regret. Not because they intentionally allowed this to happen, but because they feel they should have recognized the warning signs sooner. There were moments when their intuition whispered that something was changing beneath the surface. They sensed an invisible tension that could not easily be explained. Yet every time those feelings appeared, they pushed them aside, believing they were simply overthinking ordinary circumstances. Now they realized those quiet impressions were trying to prepare them for what was coming. Have you ever experienced a season where things stopped making sense without any obvious reason? A time when opportunities suddenly vanished, conversations became strangely distant, or plans changed at the last possible moment? Those experiences often leave behind more questions than answers. Yet sometimes they are not random interruptions at all. Sometimes they are quiet turning points that only reveal their purpose much later. Your person has begun understanding this truth through many sleepless nights. They have looked back at every conversation, every decision, every unexpected delay, hoping to discover the exact moment everything shifted. What they found surprised them. The change did not happen in one single instant. It happened gradually, one unnoticed decision after another, until finally the moment arrived when your name was no longer where everyone expected it to be. That realization struck them with incredible force. It was not only about your name. It was about everything your name represented. It symbolized trust, hope, expectation, a future that once seemed almost certain. Losing those expectations became far more painful than anyone around them realized. While others quickly moved on, your person remained standing in the same place emotionally, trying to understand how something so meaningful could disappear without explanation. They discovered that unanswered questions often weigh heavier than disappointing answers because the imagination continues searching for possibilities that reality never confirms. During these quiet moments of reflection, another realization slowly emerged. They began asking themselves whether the removal of your name was truly caused by circumstances, or whether unseen influences had quietly shaped the outcome long before anyone noticed. That question has refused to leave their heart. Every memory seems connected to it. Every unexpected event appears to point back toward it. And the deeper they search, the more they realize there may have been far more happening beneath the surface than anyone understood at the time. This growing awareness has changed the way they see the past. What once looked like coincidence now feels intentional. What once seemed like ordinary delays now appear connected to a much larger picture. Piece by piece, they are beginning to understand that the story did not end when your name disappeared. In many ways, that was the exact moment another chapter quietly began. Even now, your person carries one hope above all others. They hope that when the full truth finally comes into the light, you will understand that not every closed door is a sign of rejection. Some doors close because they were never meant to be the place where your future would unfold. That thought has become the only source of peace they can hold onto while they continue gathering the courage to reveal everything they have discovered. But there is still one part of the story they have not yet shared. It is the part that explains who truly influenced the final decision, and why your name disappeared when it seemed impossible that it ever could. That truth has remained hidden until now. And it is closer to being revealed than ever before. The possibility that someone else influenced the final decision has become impossible for your person to ignore. At first, they resisted the thought because accepting it would mean questioning everything they believed about the journey you shared. They wanted to believe that circumstances alone had changed the outcome. They wanted to convince themselves that timing, chance, or simple misunderstanding had written this chapter. But the deeper they looked, the more they realized that certain pieces of the story refused to fit together. They began remembering conversations that once seemed insignificant. A sudden change in someone's attitude. Words that felt strangely rehearsed. Promises that slowly faded without explanation. At the time, none of these moments appeared important enough to question. Yet now, when viewed through the light of everything that has happened, they seem connected like fragments of a puzzle that had been quietly waiting to reveal its complete picture. There were people who smiled while hiding their true intentions. There were moments when decisions were made in silence, away from your awareness, where your name was discussed without your voice being present. Your person cannot forget the feeling that settled over them when they realized how quickly everything changed after those conversations took place. It was not loud. It was not obvious. It was subtle enough to go unnoticed until the consequences had already become real. For a long time they carried guilt, believing they should have defended you more strongly, asked more questions, or challenged what did not feel right. They replayed those moments countless times, imagining different choices that might have changed the outcome. Yet every imagined version led them back to the same realization: some events unfold beyond our understanding, not because we are powerless, but because they reveal lessons we could not have learned any other way. As these thoughts continued to grow, something remarkable happened. Their attention shifted away from what had been lost and toward what had been hidden. Instead of asking, "Why was your name removed?" they began asking, "What truth was this moment trying to uncover?" That single question opened a completely different perspective. Sometimes a painful disappointment exposes what comfort could never reveal. Sometimes an unexpected setback uncovers hidden motives that success would have kept concealed. Sometimes the very thing that breaks your expectations becomes the beginning of your greatest clarity. Your person now believes that this moment was never only about one decision. It was about seeing people, situations, and even themselves with greater honesty than ever before. As they continued reflecting, memories returned with astonishing detail. They remembered subtle warnings they had ignored because they trusted too easily. They remembered moments when their intuition quietly urged them to slow down, to pay closer attention, to question things that seemed perfectly ordinary on the surface. Looking back now, they realized those quiet impressions were never trying to create fear. They were trying to create awareness. Awareness changes everything. Once you begin seeing clearly, it becomes impossible to return to comfortable illusions. Your person has reached that place now. The illusion has fallen away. The silence no longer feels peaceful. And pretending nothing happened has become harder than facing the truth itself. This transformation has awakened something powerful inside them. A determination to ensure that you never continue forward without understanding what really happened. Not because they want to reopen old wounds, but because they know unanswered questions have a way of following people into future seasons of life. They do not want uncertainty to become part of your tomorrow. That is why their heart has become increasingly restless. Every day they delay this conversation feels like another opportunity slipping away. Every passing moment reminds them that honesty delayed too long can become another form of silence. They no longer want silence to decide the future for either of you. Perhaps you have noticed that certain endings in life never truly felt complete. You may have accepted them on the outside while quietly wondering inside whether there was more to the story than anyone admitted. Those feelings are not always without reason. Sometimes your heart senses unfinished truth long before your mind has the evidence to explain it. Your person has lived with that unfinished truth every single day. Now they are standing at the edge of revealing it. Not because every answer has become easy. Not because every fear has disappeared. But because they finally understand that truth loses nothing by being spoken with sincerity. In fact, it often becomes the very bridge that leads people out of confusion and into peace. As this realization settles deeper into their spirit, another understanding begins to emerge, one that neither of you expected. What seemed like the removal of your name may not have been the end of your place in the story at all. It may have been the moment that exposed who was truly meant to stand beside you, and who was never as committed as they appeared. That thought has changed everything. It has replaced bitterness with wisdom. It has replaced endless questions with quiet discernment. And it has given your person the courage to take one step closer toward the conversation that can no longer be postponed. Because what they are about to reveal next does not simply explain what happened. It explains why it happened exactly when it did. And once that final piece is understood, the entire journey will begin to make sense in a way neither of you ever imagined. The realization that everything happened for a reason has not erased your person's emotions, but it has changed the way they carry them. They no longer spend every waking moment asking why the past unfolded the way it did. Instead, they have begun searching for the deeper meaning hidden beneath every unexpected turn. They have come to understand that some moments are never meant to make sense while we are living through them. Their purpose is only revealed when enough time has passed for the entire picture to come into view. That understanding has brought them to a place they never expected to reach. For the first time, they are no longer afraid of the truth itself. They are only afraid that if they wait any longer, the opportunity to tell you everything may quietly slip away. Every day that passes feels like another page turning in a story that deserves to be read completely. They know your journey has continued even without these answers. They have watched you adapt, grow, and keep moving forward despite carrying questions that never received the closure they deserved. That quiet strength has become one of the greatest reasons they can no longer remain silent. They believe someone who has shown such resilience deserves clarity instead of uncertainty. As they reflect on everything that happened, another detail continues returning to their thoughts. It is not the decision itself that troubles them most. It is what happened immediately afterward. Once your name disappeared, the atmosphere around everyone involved began changing in ways that felt impossible to ignore. People who once seemed confident suddenly became cautious. Conversations became shorter. Certain topics were quietly avoided. It was as though everyone knew a chapter had closed, yet no one wanted to explain how or why it had happened. Your person noticed every one of those changes. At first, they questioned whether they were imagining things. They tried convincing themselves that life was simply moving on. But the feeling refused to disappear. Every unanswered glance, every unfinished conversation, every unusual silence pointed toward something much deeper than coincidence. That is when they realized the truth had never completely vanished. It had simply been hidden beneath layers of quiet avoidance. The more they accepted this reality, the more determined they became to uncover every missing piece. They stopped searching only for explanations and began searching for understanding. They discovered that understanding is very different from assumption. Assumptions create fear. Understanding creates freedom. Slowly, fragments of the story began fitting together. Small details that once appeared meaningless suddenly carried extraordinary significance. Moments they had forgotten resurfaced with remarkable clarity. They remembered words spoken almost casually that now seemed filled with hidden meaning. They remembered opportunities that disappeared without warning and promises that slowly dissolved without explanation. Looking back now, none of those moments seem accidental. Everything appears connected. Not by chance, but by purpose. As this awareness settled into their heart, they found themselves asking a different question. What if your name was never truly removed from the path meant for you? What if it was only removed from a path that was never capable of leading you where you truly belonged? That possibility has remained with them ever since. It has become impossible to ignore. Thank you for staying until the very end. May your heart be filled with peace, your mind with clarity, and your future with the confidence to walk boldly into every new beginning that awaits you.